This week we are talking about desserts, something that I consider myself a somewhat of a connoisseur and expert on, if you will. I speak of the importance of dessert because growing up, I was in a big Italian family, and a lot of our laughs and a lot of my memories are around that table. Not only the table when we were having dessert, because I feel like that was the one we sat at the longest. Like the rest of the meal, you would just eat and do whatever, and then it would go. But then when it was time for dessert, it was kind of like the social time where everybody would sit around, and hours upon hours of my childhood are around that uh, that table. So I found that really, really great just to bring that with me as I grew up, and I became an uncle with my nieces and nephews, and we for sure have carried that on. And they have as many memories, I think, as I did growing up. And then my kids as well. The My kids have been super cool with like really enjoying desserts and being fun with it. Milana's got a super sweet tooth. She's super excited every time it's dessert time, and I come in with the white boxes from the bakery. So I'll back up a little bit. When I was little, my dad and I would used to go. That would be one of my jobs with him would be to go get the desserts. So we would go into Italian bakeries in Staten Island, and Royal Crown was one of them. That was still one of my favorites on Highland Boulevard. And there was one that I don't think is there anymore that was out in Westerly that we used to go to, and a little neighborhood in Westerly. And we'd walk in, and my dad would let me fill the box. And my dad was always the kind where like he'd always make it like a fun thing, which is good, and it was a good bonding experience for me and him. And I think I've taken that on where it's playful and it felt like an event, and it was just literally getting a dozen pastries. But he would never just say, just mix a dozen pastries. He would pick out which ones he wanted, and I would do the same exact thing. So I would just go and pick out the desserts with him. And it was a fun thing. And when we get home, I would like present the desserts to him, which would be fun. So we did like a lot of like, you'd pick the cannoli you wanted and whatnot. I didn't know how to say a lot of them. So, if anybody doesn't know what a cannoli is, I brought some props so everybody knows this is hands down my favorite dessert, super simple cannoli. It's basically just cream filled shell with ricotta cheese and whatnot. And I don't bake, I eat, so I should say that. So I don't know what a lot of this is, but the cannoli was one of my favorites because it just is one I bonded to and I always liked, and would just get cannolis, and it's my go-to single pastry. Um, so whenever we would go, I would always make sure that I would get a big cannoli. I also bought a lobster tail, and I forgot it downstairs. I just realized. What do I do? Do I go down and get it? I'll just eat it tomorrow. I guess I'll just enjoy what I have here. So, uh, yes, it was always a big part of my childhood. My father was a lot of fun. I got a picture of my dad here. This is funny. This is a picture of my dad. This is a picture of my dad right here. So you guys can get a taste of where I got my personality from, right? So the ring light's killing it a little bit, but that's my father. And the funny part is that lady in the picture is not my mother. It was just, it was a woman that they were on vacation with together, and he just took a picture with her. And this is before digital cameras, so they didn't get that joke till later that he made that face, whatever, and they never saw that. So my dad did that to make my mother laugh when they were taking the picture, and she was dying laughing the whole time. And the woman was like, "What's so funny? What's so funny?" And my mother couldn't tell her because she felt embarrassed. She wanted to give up my father, because snitches get stitches. And that was just like my father's personality, which I loved about him. So he would always make everything such a big deal, especially with me. I have two older sisters. I'm his son, and he was always like, it was always such like a big deal because he knew I would just totally get into whatever he was firing up. So I try to carry that same enthusiasm as a dad with him. So back to the desserts, as the simple thing of going shopping for desserts was an outing for me and my father, and I've taken that definitely into part of my thing. And I think my affinity for my sweet tooth definitely comes from all the positive memories I've had around desserts and having desserts and being with family gathered around that table. I think for sure that definitely has something to do with it. Um, so yeah, like so there's a bunch of different Italian desserts that we'd always love, and there'd be a bunch of different cakes and pies. I'm not really much of a pie guy. I think During the holidays coming up, pumpkin pie for sure. My aunt Roxy makes a hell of a pumpkin pie, which I'd always enjoy. If I had to pick a pie, I mean, I got to go either old school apple. I'd probably go old school apple with some Cool Whip. I don't do ice cream. Not a big ice cream guy. More on that later. But I think I would do probably a straight up apple. You know, when they throw a crumb on it, don't sleep on the apple crumb. Don't sleep on an apple crumb. I'm a big fan of apple crumb. Um, Here's my one thing I don't like about pie is that you can't dunk it. Like I'm a big coffee dunker guy, so I like being able like I could any cakes like a cupcake I could dunk some into a coffee. A biscotti cookie, huge fan of a biscotti cookie. Um, but I love dunking. I'm a dunker for sure. Um, so as much as I love desserts, it really carried forward into my real life with my dogs. I named all my dogs an Italian dessert. So in my my book, I go into in more detail about each one. So here they all are: cannoli, spumoni, tartufo up by me, then biscotti, Napoleon, and our little girl Pignoli. Rest in peace, Pignols. But you made the book. Um, but they they the dogs really are such a fun part of the part of like to name them to come up with that trend was really cool because there is a story behind each one of those desserts really, and I like certain ones, certain dogs better than others, and certain desserts better than others. So I guess it doesn't really matter. But I think that was another fun thing that I got out of the desserts was that they're all named after Italian desserts, and I really enjoy doing that too. So yeah, so basically that's it. And I mean, I really enjoy making dessert an event when I go out to eat with friends. I think that's an important part of the meal because everybody's like winding down and talking, coffee and dessert. You'd be hard pressed for me not to get coffee and dessert when I've gone out to eat, even if there's not a lot of time left. Sal loved going out to eat with me because I'll make it a Venetian hour basically after, and I'll just order for everybody. And especially when people take us out to dinner, like if we get taken out by the network or somebody, I'm like, oh, we gotta have dessert. Like I'll always suggest it, and everybody else will think the meal is wrapping up, and I'm like, nah, you're not getting off easy. Papa needs his sugar, so I get some desserts. One that really doesn't hit too home with me is a tiramisu. Not a big tiramisu guy. Um, it's a layered one. I don't have a dog named that yet. I like the cocoa powder, but overall, I'm not a tiramisu guy. But cannoli all day and all night. I love me a cannoli. I think I love a lobster tail because it's like a fat cannoli. So if you don't know what a lobster tail is, it's a flaky crust pastry filled with either French cream, which is the cream like that's in an eclair, like this that cream, that like yellow cream, that one, or whipped cream. And I like a whipped cream full one. Um, that probably became one of my favorites. It's also coincidentally Murr's favorite. Murr's big on that and a Linzer tart. If you saw the dinner party episode where I sent them desserts, I nailed everybody's favorite. Salsa, Tres Leche. He's a straight up cookies and milk kind of guy. So on Twitter, jquad at jquad with a lot of D's. Can you rank every dessert you've ever named a dog after from favorite to least favorite dessert? Cannoli's my number one favorite dessert. Then second, I'd have to put biscotti. Third, I'd probably put zeppoli. Fourth, I would put spumoni. Fifth, I would put panna cotta. Panna cotta. Then I would have to put tartufo and oh, Napoleon. Sorry, I forgot Napoleon. Napoleon goes up. Napoleon goes up. It's cannoli Napoleon, cannoli and biscotti Napoleon. Then it's spumoni. Um, and then the last one's Mishkin, but Mishkin is named after icebox cake, which is a long story, but I get into in the book. Um, but basically, I dedicated icebox cake to Mishkin because icebox cake is a super simple dessert that you basically it's a layered pie that has a graham cracker crust with then chocolate jello, chocolate pudding, jello, jello, strawberry jello, and then Cool Whip. It's just you make it and layer it. I actually I put the dessert in the book because it's my favorite dessert. My grandmother used to make it for everybody's birthday when they were poor. Um, because it was cheap and to make, and she had a big family and they had no money. So I put the book in there, and I actually, if you go to the Gatto Pups Instagram, there's a video of me making it. Jetta Rayson asks on Twitter, if you chose to have one dessert to have the rest of your life, what would you eat? I'd probably say icebox cake. That's definitely my favorite dessert because that brings back so many memories too. There's so much that goes along with that. But I used to eat that by like the pan. Like I love that. We we used to like try to get the last bite of icebox cake out of there. And there's a story once where I took the fork and I stabbed my brother-in-law in the hand because I wanted the last bite as he was trying to get it. And we were fighting each other. He's bigger, Vinny from the TV show. He's the one who beat up Murray in the pinata costume. My huge brother-in-law. So I stabbed him in the hand and I got the last bite of icebox cake and we laughed. Oh, thank God he laughed. But I couldn't take him down any other way. He's a big dude. I had to use my. I'm scrappy. So, um, let's see. IJ Memer asks, "Have you always had a crazy sweet tooth?" I think I have actually. I think my whole life I've always really enjoyed dessert and loved a sweet tooth. And I also enjoy making other people enjoy dessert because I find sometimes too people just need it to be ordered. Like some people are like, no, I don't have like when people say, "Would you like dessert?" Everybody always looks around the table, and sometimes I'll sit in that moment for fun, where I'll just be like, just wait around. But I think I've always had a sweet tooth growing up. I love tag along. Probably one of my favorite cookies are tag alongs from the Girl Scouts, Girl Scout cookies, and they're just a peanut butter and chocolate covered peanut butter cookie. And I literally eat those by the box. I'm not kidding. I eat them by the box. I can't just have like four of them. Joy and Pain 321 at Twitter. Did you come up with the idea to name your dogs after desserts? Yes, actually, Bessie always wanted a dog, really wanted a dog. We were just dating, then we got engaged, and she really wanted a dog, and I really didn't want one because I was on the road and whatnot. And I was like, all right, we could get a dog if you just let me name it. It started with a it, right? It started with one. Now I'm at seven. She said, sure. And we got Cannoli. We got our first dog, and I was like, Cannoli. She's like, why Cannoli? And Cannoli is a girl. It kind of feels like a boy name. And I'm like, yeah, it's Cannoli. And so we just went down this path. And then when we picked up the second dog, she was like, we were getting Biscotti. And Biscotti's shelter name when she was in the shelter at Animal Haven was Loretta. And she said, "Oh, it's so pretty." And I was like, "Nope, if we get this dog, its name is Biscotti." So we just started off a trend and it was really fun. Fun fact for you, actually, Biscotti's name was almost Ravioli. We almost went Cannoli Ravioli, but she turned when Cannoli would turn when I yelled Ravioli because you had to test it out and I wanted to be able to know who was who. So I didn't want to confuse Cannoli because she was only a pup. She was only a year and a little bit. So I said, okay, we'll just keep up with desserts, and I got Biscotti. Uh, Maybe if we start adopting cats, I'll start naming them like pastas. I have so many desserts like people too. People are like, "Oh, you're gonna run out of names for your dogs if you have dessert?" There's so many. I can't wait till I get New York cheesecake. That's gonna be my favorite dog. I want to name it New York cheesecake. I just call them cheesy or cakes. I don't know. Um, is there one dessert you haven't tried that's on your wish list? Rachel underscore int at Twitter asks. No, I'm 44 at this point. I've kind of had everything. I do get surprised by some that I like. I wasn't ever really a big Trace Leche guy. Sal loves it, and we were out somewhere. Oh no, it was Sal's birthday on set once, and they got him a Trace Leche's cake, and I had it, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is really good." But I never really even order it or have it. Um, but I'm a fan of trying stuff too, trying desserts if they sound good. You know what comes in hot? Sometimes pear will pop in. Sometimes you get a pear tart with something, and I'll always drop in there. I had this honey pear tart once in a restaurant. This is how screwed up I am. I remember this, but I was at a restaurant and they had some specials, and I asked for the table to bring us the special desserts. And one of them was a hot pear inside like a little tart with a cream, and it was and honey on top. It was so good, and it seemed so simple, but it was really good. So I ain't afraid to try a dessert if I haven't before, but I don't think there's any that I haven't tried at this point. I mean, this is a guy who's just got plates of desserts at the ready. I mean, this is like a raspberry cheesecake, the little number guy here. I'm not a big fan of raspberry. It's my least favorite of the berries, but that's the only one I had. Yeah, not for me. What is your favorite bakery and how often do you visit? Royal Crown in Staten Island is really good. I really enjoy out here by me, Leonetti. That's the restaurant. They actually got me the desserts today. Um, I like finding ones too. I like finding bakeries. I don't really go to like one specifically, really that much. Butter cookery I do sometimes. There's a bunch of different ones that I'll try, but I don't really have a bakery that I go to. I have my baker, Dominique, who helps me out. So wherever she's working is really where I go. Um, have you ever met a dessert you didn't like? Yeah, for sure. Raspberry cheesecake. Not for me. Doesn't mean you might not like it. You might be like a raspberry cheesecake. Mmm, delish. Not for me. You know what? Don't hate the player, hate the jam. Okay? This is a pecan tart. I'll try that. Hmm. Question for the group: pecan or pecan? Talk amongst yourselves. Um, for me, it's pecan. Peak. Put a peak or put a con. What team are you? Are you team pecan, or team pecan? Peak means pecan. You say like I do. Con, C-O-N. Yep, peak. That's good. Good. I got some peaks. I got some cons. This is a. I've really opened up a can of worms here, friends. Pecan versus pecan. Mm. It doesn't even seem like it's a West Coast, East Coast thing either, because I've lived on both coasts. It might be a North South kind of thing. Peak. I caught that quick. I caught that quick one too, where somebody said crayon or crayon. Don't come with me if you don't say crayon. I I don't want to know you. This is dope. Underscore Wope says, if you got turned into any dessert, what would it be? If I got turned into any dessert, what would it be? Huh. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like, sometimes I feel, sometimes I feel like I'm a walking tartufo. um, Something that was very sweet and very intense, but also made you feel happy. So whatever that dessert is for you, something sweet and intense that makes you feel happy. For me, I would say that's probably a chocolate ganache, something with a chocolate ganache. Nutella, yes or no? What do people think out here? You guys like Nutella, yes or no? My wife loves Nutella. You know the Nutella pizza that came in for a minute as a dessert, right? You know everybody says that when you go like to those brick oven places, they throw in like a Nutella pizza with bananas, or they do Nutella crepe. A crepe's not for me either. A crepe for me feels like a pancake that just hasn't committed. That's a great quote. Somebody write that down for me. Uh, a crepe is a pancake that hasn't committed. It's kind of like I didn't finish it, and it's here and it falls apart. Or it's a tortilla that's trying too hard. It's like one of those two things. I don't trust a crepe, and there's nothing against the French. I just don't trust it. Um, Favorite dessert from another country? Asked Moisio. A crepe. Coincidentally, no. Favorite dessert from another country? Well, what would you say are American desserts, right? Chocolate chip cookies. I would say that's ours, right? Apple pie. That's ours. Birthday cake, right? That's ours. Like a Duncan Hines cake with the birthday cake frosting. That's for sure ours. Um, from other countries, I mean, any Italian desserts I love. Shh, Sfiadel, maybe. I'm not a big Sfiadel fan. I like a lobster tail, which is basically a stuffed Sfiadel. Um, I don't know. I guess I would have to say Italy is probably where I come from, but I do dip into the French with a Napoleon and eclair and things like that too. Um, how many cannolis do you think you could eat in one hour? Lawson 24 Sarah asks. Depends what's on the line. I mean, my children's life. I won't can't stop, won't stop. Dozens. Uh, if I'm just sitting there and there's just a pile and I can just eat them, I don't know. I probably could do. I mean, for the joke in the it made air actually for the joke once. I ordered 12 minis and I pounded 12 mini cannolis in the back. Always macaroons, but I've done it with cannolis too. And I did like mini cannolis, and they couldn't believe how many I had eaten. That was when I was in my way bigger days. That was like 35 pounds heavier then. There was no stopping me back then. Um, now that you follow a vegan diet, how difficult is it to find decadent vegan dessert options? I'm about 90% vegan now, especially during the pandemic, but dessert is really where I dip out the most. But I will say Coco Love is a company, COCO Love, that I found out in California when I was there for business, that ships, and they've shipped to me in New York. They're on Instagram, Coco Love. They're phenomenal, and everything is basically coconut based, which I'm not a big coconut fan either, but you can't really tell with what they do. Um, so I think that was one of my. They were vegan, and they made some awesome stuff. You could find some good vegan stuff. It's tricky though, for sure. For sure, it's tricky. Um, so I kind of like well, growing up, I wasn't vegan either, so that's where it gets a little tricky for me. It's definitely dessert. That was definitely the hardest thing when I went full vegan. That when I stopped eating like dessert too, where it was like something's missing in my life. What desserts can you cook that come out better than anyone else's? Lauren14 from Instagram asks. Um, I'm not really a baker, but I do make a good icebox cake. You guys should definitely cook the icebox cake. It's super easy. The what do you call it is in the book. The here, this is what icebox cake looks like. So that's what it'll come like, and then literally that's the how you make it. You know what I mean? It's really not that hard at all. Um, I actually did a tutorial video that's on the Gatto Pups Instagram. You can check that out. That's what I really would say about desserts. This was a very fun episode as well. I'm really enjoyed doing these topics. I like that you guys come and join me. I appreciate you so much, and you guys are the best fans ever. And have a great dessert.